السيدات والسادة، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. أهلا بكم في أجمل لقاء الذي يصادف اليوم العالمي للتضامن الإنساني واحتفالية دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة لل50 عام. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and pleasure to have you today. And to set the tone, we are celebrating many occasions. One of them is the Human Solidarity Day, coinciding with the 50 years celebration of our beloved country, unifying so many nationalities. We are so proud being at the heart of it. Thank you, Dubai. Thank you, Expo, and thank you, UAE, for having such a beautiful melting pot. Without further ado, I would like to introduce my co-host, beautiful lady. In contrast, we are doing balance today, a bald head and plenty of hair. So, Damiana will host you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed, for that very gracious introduction, and welcome all. I would like to introduce you to our event tonight called Bridging Gaps, Shaping a More Balanced Future for All, introducing the Tawazun Solution. First, to start, I would love to introduce you to our very, very, very important guest of honor, Dr. Dina Assaf, the UN Resident Coordinator for the UAE and Deputy Commissioner General of the UN and Expo 2020 Dubai. Please welcome me with a warm welcome to Dr. Dina Assaf.
We continue with the mask, right? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It's a pleasure to join you today as we mark International Human Solidarity Day. As the United Nations, solidarity has defined our work since the very beginning, when the people and nations of this world came together in a determined effort to promote peace, human rights, and social and economic development. 76 years later, solidarity is still at the core of our work. We are guided by the 2030 Development Agenda, and we work towards the achievement of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. In an effort to counter global inequalities, a key principle for the SDGs is that of leaving no one behind, making the concept of solidarity indispensable for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. We rely on solidarity between nations to deliver on our mandate. And as we reflect on the state of our world today, we all certainly have situations we would like to see change or approaches we would like to improve. While all initiatives and efforts to improve the state of our world are commendable, I truly believe these will only have transformative impact if we embrace dignity, respect, and compassion as unwavering guiding principles in our lives. Living out these three values means applying them to everything: in our interactions with our families and friends, daily at our workplace, when we engage with our communities, and even at the highest levels of decision-making in nations. In every step of the way, when confronted with a decision, any decision, on how to act or how to respond, we are given an opportunity to choose better. I also believe we can show compassion, respect, and protect the dignity of our environment. As humans, we receive so much from our natural surroundings and the species that are found within it. Things that are essential to our health, quality of life, and survival. We can't afford to not safeguard them. By upholding dignity, respect, and compassion as our guiding principles, we would be steered in a direction where hostility, mistrust, and indifference dissipate. By truly embracing these values, we would bring peace, prosperity, and equity to both people and planet. I thank again the organizers of today's event and our hosts at the Moroccan Pavilion for bringing us together for this important reflection. I also congratulate the launch of the Tawazun platform today, which strives to promote balance in all aspects of life and is an example of dignity, respect, and compassion at work. Thank you very much, Hanan. On this International Human Solidarity Day, let us be reminded of our common humanity and let that become our inspiration to work together for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
When it comes to be a woman in the Arab world, and specifically in the hostile Sahara Desert, what does it take to make a living? What does it take to be a mom, to be participating, hard-working force in building such a beautiful nation? I would like to salute all the ladies of this part of the world, specifically for the very hard work that has been done throughout the years. And one of them is a very active and sincere lady who has been marking the evolution of the economic scene in Ras Al Khaimah. She's a banker, she's a mom, she's someone who is fancying sports lately, someone who is participating in decision-making at many boards. So I would like to make sure, maybe whatever we say about our beautiful minds today is not enough. We'll not give them justice. But it is really important that we value what each and every one of them is doing for the community and for the economy of the world. Join me in welcoming Her Excellency Arif Al-Falahi. She is member of the board of directors at the Ras Al Khaimah Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She is also member of the board at Ras Al Khaimah Insurance Company. She is board at Emirates Sports Club and area manager and vice president at Mashreq Bank. A warm welcoming to the beautiful lady. Come in.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Thank you, Mr. Ahmad, for the lovely introduction. I feel that you have said a lot about me. Today, being in the UAE, the country of the tolerance, the country of the giving, the country of the growth. Thank you, Dr. Hanan Bahlag, to give me that opportunity to be a guest of honor in a very prestigious pavilion, which is a Moroccan pavilion. Today, in the International Day, which is the International Human Solidarity Day, I would like to welcome you to the country which gives the power, which gives the pride, which gives the opportunities to every single person. Here in UAE, we are having almost more than 200 nationalities with different races, religions, but we work and we stay in a peace. So, Mr. Ahmad, I'm coming from Ras Al Khaimah, which is one of the 7 Emirates, and I'm really very proud that I work with different nationalities, with different genders, and who give us the power and who give us the pride to be that woman who are representing very proudly today in front of everyone. So I would like to thank the government of the UAE, the government of the, to ensure that the women are empowered in different, in different sectors, in different, the companies, which I feel that, today I'm very proud to hear that UAE represent the #1 in terms of, or between 132 countries when it comes to respect to women. And we can feel it, and to be honest, that we can realize it and we can notice on this earth. So today, even it gives me also a pride to say that UAE ranking as 9 when it comes to gender balance. So it was like in 2015, that was the mission and the vision and the aim of the country to be one of the top 25 countries when it comes to gender balance. Today, I'm very proud as being a woman that we are representing as number 9, and last year or 2 years back we were ranked as 18. See how we are jumping year by year. This means that we as a woman, we are giving that much of trust and confidence that we can go into that level. So thank you very much of giving that opportunity. Thank you very much of giving us that trust. And to be honest, without the trust of the male gender, we as a woman, we cannot succeed and come to that level. So thank to everyone who is helping the women and helping also the Emirati, the UAE national female ladies in this country. I know that when we go back to like in 1975, even the literacy rate of the woman, it was around 31%. And see today, we are jumping to 96 to 98% of the literacy rate of the UAE national ladies in this country, which means that we have made in this 50 years, in the Golden Jubilee, and today when we celebrate the 50 years of Golden Jubilee, we celebrate the success and the achievements of every single thing or every single achievements and items that we can see it in this world. Today, the 2020 Expo 2020 is the message to the world that UAE is not standing only up to Expo 2020. UAE is going to give a message that there is nothing impossible in this earth. In the land of the UAE, in the land of happiness, in the land of 200 nationalities who is helping us in making this achievements happen. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I would like to thank my ladies who are coming away from Ras Al Khaimah just to welcome you and to say thank you so much, to give us that, the trust and the confidence. And to be honest, these ladies have helped me to found the committee called Ambassadors of Emirates Club. And we are having around 25 ladies, which has been formed in 24 hours just through messages. And everyone, I was so proud of them. This shows the commitment and the initiative and the proactiveness of these ladies to ensure that there is nothing impossible. Being in Ras Al Khaimah, people, they might feel that we are, away from Dubai, and we might not be as active as these leaders who are staying in this region. However, Ras Al Khaimah has gave us the message and even, the confidence that the ladies, wherever they are, they can succeed, they can give. And this is the true message to the whole world, that women is not less than the men, and we are equal to them. That's why we are really thinking, or we are really helping the associations who is helping in the gender balance. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dina and Your Excellency. If you would please join us on stage, we have a small gift of appreciation.
Thank you very much. No, thank you for your presence. It really added a lot. Thank you. Thank you very much. مشكورة جدا، شكرا جزيلا، الله يخليك، شرفتينا. Yes, please. We have space. We have the same pendant. I love it. The tree. Okay. You can look there.
Another big round.
Thank you.
And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to an incredible thought leader, change maker, author of Seeds of Change, and an amazing person that I'm myself privileged to know, Hanan bin Khalouk. Please give us a warm welcome.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, Masa al khair, good evening everyone. It's a huge day for me today. It's a milestone. I'm going to try to hold on not to be emotional because I couldn't be happier than being standing today in this relatively small room that represents a land where my roots remain solidly planted. Within a bigger space, in a land that opened its arms to me since 17 years, that I call home, where I have been thriving. Celebrating a day that is reminding us of the values that matter, being human and having solidarity. So today I'm here to showcase in humility my contribution, a small contribution as a citizen of this world, to try to do something to make this world better than we have found it. And I want to start or share a quote that says, it's a Native American quote. Tell me a fact and I'll learn. Tell me a truth and I'll believe. Tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever. Well, this presentation will have some facts, will have a lot of truths, but I want to start with a story, with my story. Many, many years ago, in my native Casablanca, I was 14 years old in a French class, and it was International Women's Day on March 8th. And it was my turn to answer the question, what do I think about gender equality? And I said, I don't believe in gender equality. And being this progressive, opinionated, young teenager, everybody in the class, my classmates, were in denial. Then I continued, why should I strive for equality when I can do better? Now, at that age, I just remember vividly that I said that, but I did not know that the seed was being planted for something that became a big part of my journey. And my journey continued. I crossed the Atlantic Ocean from Casablanca to the other side, to the great New York City, where a big part of me was shaped, where I learned a lot, where I was exposed for the first time to a lot of diversity and a lot of different perspectives. And moving 9 years forward, Dubai called me, and I moved back east to an even more diverse city, more diverse land, where I was exposed to a lot of values, and the most important of them is that nothing is impossible, where dreams can be achieved and can be realized, and one of them is happening right here in your presence. So throughout that journey, destiny, my passion, my purpose just put me in a path where I had to be working with women. From Silicon Valley to Zimbabwe, rural areas of Morocco to Vietnam, creating different local and regional and international initiatives, being part of them, launching them, and all of that with the aim to create safe spaces for women to thrive. And throughout that journey, I realized that gender balance appeared to be really a priority or an imbalance, that there was a gap that needed to be addressed. And that was with facts. We've seen some facts, red flags, the one everybody knows that we still have a lot to do on that front. So with that in mind, on March 8, 2020, and that's when I met Dr. Dina, and that's why it means a lot to me that you are here today, because you were present, you were the guest of honor in that conference where I unveiled what I thought was Tawazun at the time. And mark my word, what I said, March 8, 2020. So I was just speaking about this initiative. Yeah, we didn't have any mask at the time. And I was speaking about this initiative that would shift the narrative of gender balance. I was just, throughout that journey that I spoke about, I felt that everything around us was shifting, and that we needed to shift that conversation from gender equality, gender balance, to a human-centric conversation, where men and women work together, where we don't have to talk about genders. Rather, we just work together to build, to bridge those gaps where we don't have one gender preceding over the other. And that was it, and I was proud of it, and I started working on how it's going to look like. And then, maybe 2 days later, a week later, our lives were hijacked, and we know what happened. We were all locked down. Everything around us has just changed. And we started thinking, everybody, like, we are in a bubble. What is happening? How did we come here? And we took it as a pause, and a lot of reflections started coming. Then it seemed that the kind of lives that we were having were not really balanced. Everybody started suddenly talking about all these imbalances, how we were just living lives without thinking about ourselves, how we were really so busy at work, we were not really given a chance to what matters. And then I thought, is it gender balance is the only question? So I started asking the question and imagining a better world, imagining a human-centric world. What would that look like, where these imbalances that everybody started reflecting about are not there? And of course, as somebody always says, that you need to, or Michael Jackson used to say, start with the man in the mirror. It's something that I really like, one of these songs that I like. So starting with the person in the mirror, I just asked the question, what does balance mean to me first? And when I Googled balance in the dictionary, it just says it's an even distribution of weight to keep someone or something upright and steady. So to me, balance is the even distribution of resources, of efforts, of rights that can keep the world upright and steady. And so this initiative started shaping, but then again, I thought I can't just be one of so many people to just start something and impose it on others. And since I wanted to imagine a human-centric world, I said, okay, now that I know what balance means to me, but what does it mean to other people? So the team and I started just asking the question. When I mean the team and I, or 3 people, just volunteers, who believed in this initiative of, let's see how we can bridge so many gaps. So we started asking 3 questions to everyone. What does balance mean to you? And I think a lot of people here have answered those questions. How do you bring balance to your life? And how can we contribute to build a balanced world? And answers started coming. And we asked people from all walks of life. We asked children, we asked the elderly, we asked people in all over the world. We asked people from all walks of life, and answers started coming, and some patterns started emerging. Some people spoke about well-being, fulfillment, passion. Some people spoke about work environments that needed to be more balanced. Others spoke about how we need to stop harming our planet and our Mother Earth. So when we looked at all those answers, started seeing that 4 elements or 4 patterns started rising. When we asked about balance, a lot of people talked about the need of balanced people. Others talked about the need of balanced societies, the need of balanced workplaces, and of course, the need of a balanced planet. So it was very clear, the definition of a balanced world, somebody asked me today, based on this outside-in approach that we took, it is anchored by 4 pillars: balanced people, workplaces, societies, and planets. So today, I'm proud to announce the launch of Tawazun that aims to be a think tank, but not just a think tank, a think-do tank, because we want to think, but we want to also act. We want to engage multiple stakeholders, from citizens to corporates, to NGOs, and to government, to come together collectively. We can no longer work in silos, to bring ideas and act. How can we bridge the so many gaps that are around us? How can we bring more balance to this world? And I would like to play a small video that showcases what we aim to achieve with Tawazun. are committed to achieving the Global Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And you might ask, why are we in Morocco, in the Moroccan pavilion? There are two answers. One is emotional and one is rational. The emotional one is very obvious to guess. As they say, you can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl. I'm very proud Moroccan, even if I left it 25 years ago. Now, the rational is that I was so pleasantly surprised and so proud to find out about the new development, the new model of development that the government of Morocco has unveiled lately, and we have an expert that's going to be part of the panel to talk about it more. And what really struck me is that it's so aligned to what we're trying to achieve with Tawazun. It was a people-centric model of development where a commission was identified to go outside and understand what are the problems of the citizens, and from that develop a report, and based on that report, many policies and many programs will be developed and executed. And that's the vision of 2035 that aims at creating a bold Morocco, a sustainable Morocco, a Morocco of skills, and an inclusive Morocco. Morocco has been always inclusive, and history shows that. So before a balanced world comes a balanced you, and that's the call that I want to close with. How are you going to be Tawazun? How are you going to bring balance to the world? And that's a reflection. At the end, if you don't leave, we're giving you a little tool that can start you on the path of becoming Tawazun and bringing balance to the world. So join us. We need the collective. This is a space where we want everyone to give us their ideas so that together we find out how can we, each of us, every change matters. It's with the increments of every change that we can bring balance to the world and that we can shape a better world. And we are in Expo because the theme goes with what we are trying to achieve. It is about connecting minds, shaping the future. Beautiful minds in this room, beautiful minds are watching us. Please join us. Let us all collectively make the world better than we have found it for the next generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hanan. Yesterday I was browsing the net, maybe to cheat a little bit and to check on Tawazun. What is Tawazun? And 3 words got my attention: human-centric design. And I was thinking, can we reshape? We are talking about reshaping the future. Can we reshape people? Human beings, are they able to be reshaped? Can we work together to maybe change our trajectory or change our direction in a better or to a better future? And I believe this is the core of everything that we are doing, that nations are doing nowadays. So without further ado, our topic of today, not to be mistaken, the bedrock for building an inclusive and sustainable future for all. For that, we have a beautiful panel, a very knowledgeable panel that maybe can not only answer some of the questions, but also instigate some thoughts that we can all share and that we can use as tools to connect and to build a better future together. We have in the panel, in our beautiful panel, Mrs. Asma Quraishi, Global Quraishi? 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 Quraish? Sorry for that. Quraish. So Mrs. Asma Quraish, correct? Quraish. Quraish. ما في تنوين. So Mrs. Asma Quraish, Global SVP Marketing Jumeirah. Mrs. Asma is a former CMO at KFC, founder of the only all-natural, non-chemical well-being spa in Dubai, Zaz, representing the private sector role in building balanced work environment. So welcome, Mrs. Asma. I'm not going to repeat. We have Dr. Nuha Hefni, advisor to the UN Women, founder of the People of Impact board member of Tawazun. Mr. Daryl Owen of Arzaq, Ocean Conservation NGO. Come in. We have some of our speakers who will be joining us online as well, and we value their contribution. So we have Dr. Hamid Al-Bukhishi, member of the Committee of Moroccan Development New Model, appointed by His Royal Highness King of Morocco. He is expert in entrepreneurship and managerial innovation, Dean of Solbridge International School of Business based in Daejeon, South Korea, and he's also a member of the Moroccan Institute of Strategic Intelligence. A big round of applause for him as well. Dr. Mohammed Bukhishi is assistant professor in Sultan Qaboos University. Dr. Bukhishi is a very well-versed teacher for so many years with intensive experience. And he was based basically in South Korea. In South Korea, Morocco, Qatar, Oman, and Dr. Al-Bukhishi is also media political analyst in diverse media outlets about Asian and Arab issues. We have also a message, a very important message. Hello? From Professor Dr. Rachid Yazami in Singapore. He's a scientist, engineer, and inventor. The pride of the Arab world, having created something that without it would not be able to communicate. And it's with every one of you in the room. You are holding it in your pockets or in your hands. The lithium battery in our mobiles. So I would like just now to give him a very big round of applause. He is a prize awardee, which is equal to Nobel Prize, and the awardee of Mohammed bin Rashid Medal for Scientific Distinguishment. So we would like to value what we have today, all those beautiful brains, and we would like also to thank Dr. Hanan for gathering all of us in one room. Dr. Hanan, your turn.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Imad. I think we can give one to each. Happy to host these powerhouses, and really proud to have three of our Moroccan caliber that have made long strides across continents. I'm really humbled by them accepting my invitation and being part of this. So I want to start by throwing the question, at least to the people present with us here, since I said we asked everyone quickly, what does balance mean to you? Since that's the question of today.
On an individual level, it's really the balance between mind, heart, and soul. So how we take care of our bodies, we nourish them, drinking enough water, nutrition, exercising, all of that, yeah? So to have a healthy body means you can be resilient with your health physically. So that's, for me, one part. But then you also have to nurture your soul, and you also have to nurture your mind. So by balancing all of these aspects, you become a balanced individual. And by doing so, you can have more clarity of mind, and then you can be more resilient and therefore balanced. Professional level, my career is really in the field of social impact. So for me, balance is about balanced communities. It's about equal distribution of wealth. It's about bridging inequalities. It's about addressing the SDGs, for example, the Sustainable Development Goals, and ensuring that every person, man or woman or child around the world has access to equal rights and access to equal resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nuha. And moving to Asma.
Okay. For me, I'll provide a slightly unexpected answer. I think balance is where the ego is silenced to a certain extent. So anywhere and any behavior that makes you think of anything else other than yourself as a priority is a balanced approach. So if you're in the environment and you're not maximizing your own win versus the trees or versus the sustainability of the earth that we have, you're being balanced. That means that you're not being selfishly irresponsible. When you are thinking of relationships with people, or when you are at work and you put the interests, you balance things out without necessarily being super selfish, you are balanced. So I think definitely Tawazun touches on all the 4 pillars of balance. But I think every time you think of, famously we say, in French we say l'autrui, instead of thinking of yourself first, and you balance things out and put everything in perspective, you are in a balanced environment, whether we are in physical or health or soul. That's how I think of it.
Thank you. That's food for thought for all of us. Thank you, Asma. And moving to the diving man, the ocean man. What does balance mean to you? I know, I thought you were going to show up in a diving suit. I'm disappointed, actually.
I'm not wearing rubber today.
Yeah, I know. I thought you were going to come, like, really live in the purpose.
With a mask.
Yes, it would have been great.
Mask, so.
That's it, just to help myself.
Okay. For me, I think the easiest way to describe it is it's about being fair. It's about being fair to yourself, about being fair to your wife or husband, your family, the people you work with, the planet. Yep. You know, not asking another party to do something that you wouldn't give. Don't ask them to give something you wouldn't give. And after a long, long career in corporate, you know, I decided to rebalance and to move into, you know, ocean-type stuff. I've been a diver since 33 years. Oh, wow. And now, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, yes. We're talking about restoring balance to the ocean.
Thank you. I mean, you see, you asked the same question to just 3 people, and you have completely 3 different answers. And I think each of you now is thinking, what does balance mean to them? Thank you for sharing with us your personal thoughts. And I'd like to start this panel by bringing us back together to a realization how humanity is confronting various challenges today. Since we are celebrating today the International Human Solidarity Day, so we want to go back to those basics. And all of us have witnessed firsthand these challenges in the past 2 years. And a core and essential pillar to address the multitude of these challenges, we've seen that all these imbalances have put us all at the edge of how can we all sort it out. Is it the role of the government? Is it the role of citizens? Is it the role of the riches towards the poor? And that's how I want to open this panel, to see first what is the role of the government. And since we have with us Mr. Hamid, Dr. Hamid Boushikhi, who I can spend the whole time allotted to this panel to talk about his work, but I'll keep the time for him to reintroduce to us this people-centric approach. That's the role of government in Morocco, which is really a case study that we want to showcase today, this vision and ambition of 2035. How did it all come, and what is it to us to learn from? Because I feel that the purpose is really bridging those gaps and balances. So I hope he's with us, he's present, Dr. Boushikhi. So over to you, and thank you so much for joining us all the way from Paris, or France. I don't know if it's Paris, but I know it's France. Mr. Boushikhi, are you there? Can you hear me? Okay. I think you're on mute, if you can hear me. If you can unmute yourself, please. So we're here to discuss the role of governance, the role of academia, the role of the private sector and NGOs, and also the role of citizens. We are all accountable to bridging gaps and bringing balance, and that's why I'm looking forward to start with the role of government. I think we're back. Should we unmute him, or? Can you hear us? We can't hear you. I don't know. It's he's not muted, but we can hear him.
Do you hear me?
Yes, finally.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's so good to see you.
Likewise. Well, I don't see you yet.
But we'll make sure that we'll see you face to face very soon.
Okay, okay. So, when am I supposed to speak?
It's right now. The stage is yours.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So do I go?
Yes, we
All
were
right.
talking. Probably you missed us. We were just talking about the role of government, and we want to showcase the case study of the new model of development that you have been very active part of as part of the commission that His Majesty has nominated, and we're really privileged to have you today with us.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I wish I could be there in person, but at least I try cheating with technology to give you the impression that I'm speaking from Marrakesh.
Yes, and we love that.
Although I'm actually in Paris.
Okay.
So if I may share my screen, and yeah, this is. I'm trying to share my screen here.
Okay, let's see if the technical
Help
team.
me. All right.
Right,
So
that's
you
it.
see my screen, hopefully.
It's yes. There you go.
It's going to be a tough challenge for me to, to tell the story of the Moroccan new development model in 10 minutes or so. But I will try. After Hanan invited me to participate in this session, I went back on the political leadership of the country and business leaders and civil society to take a pause and to appraise the country's development trajectory. And he pointed out a number of issues and dysfunctions. And more importantly, he emphasized the need for this appraisal to be undertaken through the lens of citizens. He repeatedly emphasized that development has to be built, designed with citizens and for citizens. And this may sound maybe trivial to many of you or obvious, but in the context of Morocco, this is a radical paradigm shift. I won't elaborate more on this beyond saying that 2 years after that speech, His Majesty decided to establish this special commission of the development model, commission spéciale sur le modèle du développement, as we say in French, and we were about 35 people representing a very broad range of expertise. This was not an economist task force or committee. We had medical doctors in the committee, we had artists, we had writers, we had economists, of course, and we had also policymakers and business leaders, entrepreneurs. So this reflects also the composition, the makeup of the committee reflected a broad understanding of development beyond just economic growth, and this is important. We had about a year to work, and we also had to adjust to COVID. And basically, the committee interacted with about 10,000 people, either in person or online. This, in the history of Morocco, this was a first. This is the first time that an official commission mandated by His Majesty traveled across the country, met a lot of people, received input from all sorts of organizations and individuals, and processed the whole thing and tried to basically to come out with a new ambition, I must say, a new ambition for the country and a new development trajectory. I'm sorry, I have to read this paragraph, but this is the only time I'm going to read with you. But it's important, I think, to see where the ambition is. I'm not going to be able to elaborate on everything in the model, but I thought that this is important. So basically, our task was to think about Morocco in 2035. And in 2035, we would like to see Morocco as a democratic country where everyone can fully take control of their future and realize their potential and live with dignity in an open, diverse, just, and equitable society. It is a country that creates value, which develops its potential in a sustainable, shared, and responsible manner. Capitalizing on its significant progress at the national level, Morocco has established itself as an exemplary regional power at the forefront of the major challenges facing the world. So this, in a nutshell, this is the Morocco that we want, that we dream for 2035. And now you may ask, how do we get there, right? For Moroccans in the audience, I hope that you appreciate how bold and ambitious is this statement here. I'm not, sorry, I have just to show you the slide. I'm not going to elaborate, but this is how we came to draw, to represent the new development model with some, what you see, the block that's called strategic transformation priorities. These are areas where we must do something. We have problems in these areas and we have to fix them. To the other side, the new collective action paradigm, we worked a lot on how to drive change, what are the rules of the game, and so on and so forth. And in the middle, you have this vision of Morocco in 2035. And at the bottom, what you see in the bottom is 5 areas where we believe that Morocco has a good chance to build a strong position in research and innovation, digital, low carbon economy, or regional financial hub, and made in Morocco. I'm sorry, I cannot elaborate more because I want to keep some time for the theme of our session. But if you are interested, the documents, the report and appendices are available online. They are available in French, they are available in Arabic, they are available in English. So if you are interested, you would be very welcome to go to the website. The website is here. As you can see, the website, and you can download to your leisure. Now, to get there, we have to address at least 5, there may be more. Moroccans in the audience may come up with more imbalances. But the way I view this is that, and this is what we emphasize, basically, this is my reading of the report, right? So I'm not making things up. We have in Morocco a tradition of top-down policymaking and centralized management. A lot of things, not to say almost everything, is decided in Rabat, in the capital. and pushed down to the regions with more or less effective execution. We may have inherited this from France, which at least used to work this way before a massive decentralization that occurred in France in the 1980s and has not yet materialized as such or at that scale in Morocco. The other thing that we say in the report is that the country invested heavily in capital, in infrastructure, and this was a good thing. There are a number of people in Morocco who question the wisdom of investing in highways or ports, airports, railway network, and so on and so forth. That they say these are too expensive. These investments have created a lot of debt for the country, and so on and so forth. And we are not sure that there's enough that these investments are warranted or create social value, and so on and so forth. We don't, in the committee and personally, we believe that equipping the country is a good thing. You can never regret to invest in infrastructure. The problem we have is that as we invested in physical capital, we neglected human capital. More specifically, we neglected education, healthcare, and a number of social services. The third imbalance is in terms of the distribution of wealth and wealth creation in the country. Morocco has been, and it's still, and this has to change, but wealth investment, wealth creation is pretty much concentrated in around 2-3 regions now in the country, around Casablanca, now around Agadir in the south, around Tangiers in the north. But basically the Casablanca area is still, I can't just cite the numbers of like here, of mine, but on the top of my mind, but then Casablanca must still represent 50 or 60%. The fourth imbalance is a very, very low inclusion of women. The inclusion of women in the workforce is around 20-25%, and the same goes for the youth. We have we have millions of youth who are neither in education, nor in employment, nor in training, and that is a serious concern. And the fifth and last imbalance, at least on this list, is a kind of lack of awareness of environmental issues. This is a topic that basically has been somehow also, not somehow, really neglected, and we have in the country, we have to cope with issues of pollution and water stress, water management. So these are 5 imbalances that have really been impeding the country's development. And in the new development model, among other things, please appreciate that the new development model is a kind of 360 review of the country, so it's multidimensional, and there's a lot to it than what I'm presenting here, what I'm sharing here. But the 5 imbalances, the way we think they can be addressed and the gaps being closed is through first a kind of a promotion of participatory democracy, more participation, more bottom up to balance the top down, more participation of citizens and stakeholders in the formation of public policies and the execution of these policies. This in itself, this alone, if we can do this, I think we will really change the country's trajectory. Second, more investment in human capital, so that the country can reap the benefits of investment in infrastructure. And one of the things that I would like to maybe highlight here is that the new government that was formed in early October has now the chair of our committee. Our chair was appointed as Minister of Education, and well, I don't know why. I'm happy that our chair was charged with such a big, I think, big responsibility. But one reason is that education is the #1 priority in the new development model, and it's logical and normal that the chair of our committee is basically being asked to follow on the report and implement the recommendations that we made about education. More balanced geographical development and implementation of what we call the Morocco of the regions. I didn't want to translate in English because it sounds a little bit awkward to me. Maroc des régions, as we say in French. This also going to be a major balancing exercise. The king a few years ago basically called for a more devolution of responsibilities, authorities, resources to the regions, but in a traditionally centralized country, this is a big challenge. So this is work in progress. I think we are only 10 or 15% in what we have to do in this area. The new development model has also a chapter on inclusion, inclusive development, and development of capabilities of women and the youth in the formal economy. This is, I think, also a lot of fellow Moroccans hopefully realize the importance and value of and the urgency of addressing this imbalance. And finally, the new development model is very, very keen on systematic consideration of the environment and of externalities and negative, I would say, negative externalities in the development and implementation of policies. So this is a very brief and hopefully meaningful overview of the new development model and how this model basically comes down to a balancing exercise. Thank you for your attention. I'm happy to address any questions. And again, sorry, I couldn't go too much in the details of the new development model, but if there are any questions, I'm happy to discuss them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this insightful presentation. I think we can organize a whole session for probably a whole day just to drill down into this very ambitious development plan that we really hope that is going to succeed in bridging those imbalances and those gaps. Since I think that the elements that were mentioned are all represented in this panel, and before I go back to our other virtual guest, who I saw that he's waiting, I want to ask the question to Ms. Asma. So Asma, as someone who has a very successful, impressive experience in Fortune 500s, big companies, regional, global, and local, and managing teams and holding senior positions, how do you think we could tackle the inclusion and the balance part of these work environments when we know in the corporate, it's all about business. We always say it's business, it's not personal. Business is here to make profits. People are paid to work. So how do you, throughout your journey, how do you think, if you can share a bit how you managed to bring balance with all these very, very senior positions, and what that can be done, in your opinion, to bridge those gaps?
Thank you. This is like maybe the 100th time I'm asked these questions, so I'm super rehearsed. So for me, everybody asks me, and they're like, you were born in Morocco, raised in Morocco, you went outside of Morocco, and how did you do that? And I just say, I never thought that it was not possible. So I was saying impossible is nothing. And then our friends from Nike are saying just do it. So I had a father who never treated us as girls. He just thought we were guys, actually. So we grew up with this pressure to, like everybody else, to study, to achieve. And he always said to us, I always quote him, although I didn't have the best relationship with my dad growing up, but it's funny. So he always told us, I don't want you to be, he has a very strong way of describing women sometimes. He says, I don't want you to be femme marchandise, which is a woman to buy or sell. I want you to be a brain. So of course, I mean, you're growing up with that as a father, and then you start going, and you don't know if someone is looking at you as a girl or not. So self-belief, and this was I think the way you and I exchanged last week, and I told you about the man in the mirror from Michael Jackson that I always use, and I always say, strength and empowerment starts from the self. So self-belief, being self-centered, self-loving, self-supporting, is where it starts in the beginning. Then obviously this gives you the fuel, but as we say, it's diversity and inclusion. So what happens after that? You have the belief. And I have two examples, one organization that pushed me and one organization that didn't. So it's not like you always, with this fuel, find the perfect environment, because you control yourself, it gives you the drive, and then it also conditions what comes out of you. Your energy attracts certain things, but you cannot always find a sounding board where you are. So when Noha and I were working in PepsiCo, that environment was very good for women. Although now, I mean, at that time we thought, oh, not so much, but now I can tell you it was. How was it important, and how did it help me as a female leader grow? And I think Noah had a similar journey with me, same years, is that we were looked at as key members of the team, regardless of our gender. Nobody cared whether we are a girl and we are some kind of bossy girls too. So it's not like we are a bit bossy. So there was that, and there was the environment around it. So when I was in PepsiCo, and Noha was the same, I was pregnant twice, 2 pregnancies, 2 times breastfeeding, on the plane, going to different areas. I refused to give up breastfeeding. I wanted to not give the bottle. So how do you do that when you're flying everywhere? When you're going 1 week in China, the next week in Philippines, and in India, and that was my 2nd pregnancy specifically. When your organization waits for you to finish pumping your milk in Philippines before you start a meeting, that's an organization that acknowledges the difference between a man and a woman, not the inferiority, the difference. We are different. This story about pumping milk in the Philippines is funny. So when you send a message as you're boarding a flight from, I think we were in Malaysia, and say, my breast pump broke, please get me one. As soon as I land, I need to pump. And then he was ready, and then we have to wait until she's done. And then I was done. I was like, oof, now I can sit, because I have a 5-month-old sitting at home, and I don't want her to not have breast milk when I go back. And if I don't continue pumping, it will dry out. So PepsiCo as an organization, and everybody who was a leader at that time deserves a salute, because they encouraged us, they helped us. We both had 2 babies, I think, in PepsiCo. We never felt it. It's like you work and then you go back home. Everything around us, the system was very supportive. And I always say, the system is important. You need to feel that you are just someone different. And last March, I spoke about the same subject in a female leadership forum for Jumeirah, and I said to everybody, it's about embracing imperfection and vulnerability. It's not about anything else. We need to understand, a female is hormonal, she cries, and when she has her menstruation, she is really not easy to work with. Leave her alone. A guy doesn't necessarily multitask as much and doesn't necessarily connect emotionally. The empathy might not be at the same level, but a woman has that. So a female leader is emotional, she has more protection towards her team. A man leader is less emotional, and that's needed sometimes to balance things out. I was in another organization after PepsiCo. When I told my boss my number one priority is to be a good mother, he said, maybe you should just sit at home. And then a year later, I was out because I was like, what? I mean, what do you mean? I mean, I could be a good mother role model at the same time. So I took a bit of time, but I really wanted to cover this. Corporate world is not perfect. You need to find the organization that believes in you, but you need to believe in yourself before the organization. And I'm pretty sure Noha has something to say about this.
No, I think the only thing for me, I mean, Asma covered the personal experience, but there also, you know, from an organizational lens, you know, it takes a leader, as you said. So from, in the case of Pepsi, you know, you had Indra Nui at the top really powering ahead with diversity, inclusion, integrated all across the business, you know. You're rated on it in every business decision, but also in every people decision. And so to drive balance, to drive inclusion, to drive sustainability, to drive gender equality, you need top leadership commitment. An organization, you do need to back that commitment with investments. Because again, we can talk so much, we can say we believe in this, we believe in that, but if there is no solid commitment, financial commitment, and human resource commitment for all these agendas, not, you know, the needle will move, but maybe very slow. And then last but not least, in the presentation earlier by Dr. Hamid, you know, he talks about inclusive economic growth. Yes. So again, the world is shifting to this bottom-up approach versus top-down. Yeah. And that applies to communities, applies to innovation. I mean, at People of Impact, we're working on grassroots social innovation, bringing solutions for social challenges coming from the bottom up. So to drive balance, again, you know, we will need this need to have the two-way dialogue. We will need to have these inclusive, bold, aspirational leaders who are disruptive, who are able to expand their mind to bring everybody in an inclusive fashion, regardless of gender, regardless of anything. So I'll stop there to give also Daryl a chance.
Thank you. You anticipated my question, and I might say that we are grateful for you and the People of Impact, because you really showcase that collaborative approach that is needed if we really are serious and authentic about bridging these gaps and about bringing balance. Before, Daryl, since we're talking about how we need to build or bring balance to the work environment, we need to build these balanced leaders, I want to go to another Dr. El Bouchikhi. It is just a coincidence. They're not related, and it's a coincidence that they both were in South Korea, and they have almost the same name. And they are all both amazing researchers and that work in universities across continents, and we are proud of them. So Dr. Bouchikhi Mohammed, who's a very dear friend of mine and who is now sitting in Oman, and we're trying to bring him to the UAE. What is the role of education as a key enabler for driving a better and more balanced and sustainable future? From your experience, you lived in, and not just lived, but taught and were part of university and did a lot of research in Asia and in the Middle East and North Africa and now in the GCC. How do you think, what are the learnings from this journey, and what are the differences, what are the key learnings for us from your experience abroad that we can bring into our education system to start building these balanced leaders from school? We don't want to wait until they start working because it's too late. So how can we start instilling these principles of balance and building these inclusive leaders from at the education level, and how can we contribute to the vision, for example, that Morocco has 2035? Part of it, the 5 elements, is Morocco of skills, skilled Morocco. I just want to get your views and insights on that as someone who does a lot of research and who is academia 100%. Thank you. Professor Dr. Mohammed Bouchikhi, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, my name is El Bouchikhi, and it's not El Bouchishi. This was the name used by my friends to make fun of me when I was in the middle school. So just to correct it, El Bouchikhi as Ms. Hanan pronounced it. First of all, I would like to congratulate Ms. Hanan for this very promising and ambitious project of Tawazun, which is the balance. And throughout this very short session, I will share my thoughts about education as a balance or as the balance itself. Throughout my experience in 3 regions and 4 countries, I believe that the difference between those 3 regions, which is Northeast Asia, South Korea, where the place where I studied and where I lived for more than 10 years, Qatar and Oman here in the GCC countries or the Middle East, and Morocco in North Africa. And I concluded that the main difference between these countries is education, as given that education is the balance between development, progress, and moving forward, and between being stagnant. And if I want to define what is education, it means a change in people's conduct of life, in people's behavior, and it means also the upgrading of people's ability to choose the best alternatives in any given circumstances they face. That's how education helps people to choose the best alternative and to find their way. It enriches cultures, spirit, values, and everything that characterizes us as human beings, and which somehow distinguishes us from non-human beings. It also helps achieve levels of social welfare, economic growth, and helping to people to achieve their economic development. And this is the main, I think the main example of it is given in the Northeast Asian countries like South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, and all these countries, which somehow from the beginning of their economic development models, they focused more on education and how to educate people and how to include and not to exclude, and to include all the people of their countries and to give the same opportunities to all the students. And somehow at the end of the day, they got very good results. If we take, for example, South Korea, where I lived for more than 12 years, I think, access to education was given to everybody, and there was no difference between public or private education. Education was given to everybody. It was a kind of competition between the whole society. And as I said, for example, if I'm still taking the South Korea as an example, South Korea in 1961 was on the verge of famine, was just went out of the civil war, weak, destroyed, and in a very short time, for less than four decades, or about 4 decades, it joined the OECD, the club of rich countries. That's somehow based on giving education a very prominent role in the society. Because again, education levels the economic and social inequalities. It paved the way for people to access better level of employment, expand their opportunities, and also prepare the youth for adulthood to be the leaders of the future. And that's of the things that that are the lessons that we can learn from the Asian models of development. If we take China or Japan or the Asian tigers, so that was the main thing. Education played a very important role in building the nations. Because once more, education, it promotes the changes in human rights, dignity, human behavior, and it helps eradicate poverty. It helps achieve sustainability and build a better future for everyone. It helps to build develops the countries and society, and it is seen as the foundation of society, which brings economic wealth social prosperity and political stability. And I believe also that education helps building harmony in any given society, helps for the coexistence, togetherness, fighting dark ideas, and building better life. So education is about including everyone. For me, I believe that education itself is a balance, or it is the balance inside the society, inside any given society, and also inside the global society. Taken in consideration that in any country where there is an imbalance or disequilibrium inside the society between regions or between people, this somehow will not lead to a prosperous nation, at least theoretically. And that's why I see that education is the fine line between well, I won't take it as it is, as light between light and darkness, but somehow it is building a solid ground between between knowledge and ignorance, between good and evil, between climbing for better life conditions and diving into worse conditions, into ignorance, and into miserable life for the whole society. I think from this very modest experience, I believe education is the main engine for growth, for moving forward for the future. And as I said, it is the balance, not only a balance, but it is the balance in life. I think Mr. Hamid Boushikhi shared the same experience with me, like living in South Korea for a certain time, teaching in South Korea, and somehow we get the idea that these countries, or South Korea as an example, were built and were based on education, and somehow this has helped the country to reach what it has reached so far. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Boushikhi. I agree with you. It starts at the roots, and we can no longer have the curricula education or the professional education fragmented from the personal education. It has to become a holistic approach if we really want to build balanced and inclusive leaders. And if we want to build a balanced world, we need to save this planet that is hosting us. And no matter what we build, I mean, skills, we're talking about corporates and skills, but with all of that, what about Mother Earth that is hosting us? How can we save it if we don't have people like you who are committed to creating or to shifting their career and their focus to start education? And I mean, you tell us more about your initiatives called Azraq. I just love the name. I fell in love with. I saw Azraq. Love the blue color, as you can see. But it really means that it's focused on oceans, and ocean is still 2/3, I think, of more, right? At least 2/3 of Earth. So definitely starting by focusing on ocean makes sense. So we are really happy to have you here to really look at balance from a completely different lens from what we've spoken about until now. And we'd love to hear from you before we move to somebody else who cares about the planet in a different way.
Thank you.
Sure.
I mean, the funniest thing is that we call it planet Earth, and yet Earth is actually the least part of the planet. Now, not everybody necessarily appreciates how important the ocean is to the planet. Now, obviously scientists always sort of have slightly different views on statistics and things like that, but depending on where you are in the world, the ocean produces between 70 and 80% of the oxygen that we breathe. I think many sort of conservationists get very excited about saving the rainforest, etc., which we should, we absolutely should. But if the rainforest ceased to exist, the planet would still be survivable. If the ocean ceases to function, the average temperature will rise between 60 and 70 degrees centigrade, which means that our summers in Dubai will be 120 degrees. Now, we all boil at 100, by the way, so we won't really enjoy those summers, at least after the first one. So, saving the ocean is, it's a mammoth task. I mean, it covers, the majority of the surface of the planet. And it's very, very easy to fall into the trap of just talking about it and not actually doing anything. And I'm an ex-military man, and it was bred into me very early that action is the most important thing once you've thought about it a bit. And so I've been a keen diver for a long time and decided it was really time to do something, even if it was small. And so I, through my own company, not ASRAC, we started by creating a methodology and an education system to create underwater reefs and underwater nurseries to help the coral to recover, to expand, to increase carrying capacity. And as we were doing this, I mean, in a very, very small way, because we were trying to work out, you know, how deep we needed to do it, which species of coral, and all that sort of stuff. And I came across a picture of Dubai in 1990. And in 1990, there was this dusty road with 4 big buildings, at least in the photograph. I think it's quite a famous photograph. And I'm looking at this and thinking, that was in 1990. We're now in 2022, and look at the difference. And I thought, it's such a brilliant model for what we're trying to do under the sea. Now, on our coastline, the east coast, particularly the Fujairah coast, and to a degree the Ras Al Khaimah coast as well, but the Indian Ocean coast, we have almost perfect water for growing corals. Okay, it's nutrient poor, it's very clear for at least most of the year. We got lots of sunshine for photosynthesis because corals need to photosynthesize to produce energy. And the problem is that it's just sand, and coral can't grow on sand, just like cities can't grow on sand, or can they? And that was what suddenly occurred to me, was that, hang on, Dubai grew out of a sand pit somehow. And so what we started to do now is, an ASRAC, I got involved with Natalie Banks when she was first setting up ASRAC, and she said, listen, I really like what you're doing. Would you like to do that with ASRAC? Which we started to do. So we've now got corporates who are basically sponsoring the development of coral reefs and the development of coral nurseries. Coral nurseries are a bit like the blood bank of the ocean. You know, in every good hospital, you have to have a blood bank, because if you have a big pile up on the highway, obviously you're going to need some blood. Save all the people. Well, when we get summers like this last one, where we had the hottest recorded temperature in the history of the country in terms of as long as we've been measuring the temperature, that killed probably around 40 or 50% of the coral on the east coast, and possibly more the further south we got to. The water got to 38 degrees in Abu Dhabi this summer. 38. This is like warmer than a baby's bath. Coral gets uncomfortably sweaty at 32. It can survive for a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. It'll get a little bit, you know, twitchy. Yeah. But if the water temperature drops, then it'll be more or less okay, it'll recover. 6 weeks later, we still had 38 degrees, and the coral was turning white, which generally means that it's not happy at all. It's called bleaching. It's not dead yet, but it's not happy. Essentially what it does is it creates like a sunscreen over the top of itself with like a white mucus, and it looks almost fluorescent under the water, like a whitey blue color. And at that point, you know that if you don't do something quickly, you're going to lose that entire coral species. Now, you could sort of say, well, so what? It's just coral. Coral is actually the architect of the entire ocean. It represents less than 1% of the ocean's surface, or the ocean's bottom, I should say. And yet, it produces over 30% of the species in the ocean. So 30% of our water-covered planet originates from corals, coral reefs, okay? And if we go back to the picture of Dubai, how did we go from a dusty road to a shining city? Well, we needed 3 things. We needed habitat, we needed food, and we needed work. And you bring those 3 things together in a clever way, and the city grows. And it's exactly the same under the water. If you provide a habitat, coral is a habitat. That's where all the little fish hide and grow up, and you need work. Well, everything on a reef has a job to do. You know, some things eat coral, some things poop on coral and make them grow. Some things, you know, swim around and become food for the next thing on the food chain. You know, there's a role for every single thing on the reef. And then, you know, obviously food. Well, the food chain provides the food as well. So if you can put more reef in, you can essentially create a bigger city. If you create a bigger city, you create a bigger population. If you create a bigger population, you can create a healthier ocean. And you can say, well, Daryl, you know, you're doing like 400 or 500 meters squared in Fujairah, but the ocean, you know, I mean, you can say that that's a drop in the ocean, but guess what? The ocean's made up of trillions of drops. So the more that we can do this, the more that we can help the ocean be healthy, the more fish we provide. Now, in this country, fishing is still a major industry, and it feeds a lot of people. Now, when we get to a point where the fish can't keep up, they can't breed fast enough to produce enough fish for 10 years' times dinner, we've got a problem. So we either need to say, well, fishermen, you can't do what you've been doing for the last 100 years. You've now got to do something else, and we're all going to eat something different from fish, or we've got to create more fish. So that's kind of what we're working on now, is, you know, this whole sort of sustainability type thing. Now, we start here in the UAE. Why? Because it's just a great place to do this sort of thing. You get so much support, so much, you know, so many benefactors that want to help. The next stage is we've now modeled all of this. We've got a methodology, let me call it like that. We've got a recipe to bake a cake. After COVID, there are thousands of businesses and millions of families that live on the coast all over the world who have no work, no tourists to take out on their boats. They've been locked down for 2 years. You know, they've been struggling to find food for their families. And certainly, you know, my plan, and hopefully with the help of Azraq as well, is I want to start to take this model and then, again, through philanthropism, sorry, excuse me, change my teeth, and also through sort of commercial support and stuff across, you know, different sponsors in the world. What I want to try to do is now cookie cutter this into various places so that we can give people a business that is year-long, because mostly tourism is very, very short seasons. We can give them something to do that is going to help to increase fish stocks. Well, if we increase fish stocks, we increase food. We're also, you know, creating a circular economy there as well. So it's a big dream, big plan, but, you know, step by step, drop by drop, reef by reef,
Yeah.
and hopefully we'll get somewhere.
Great, thank you. Wow, that's a lot of information for all of us. I think it's like an education session on so many things that we had no idea about. We just know the ocean. You know, we love the ocean. We like to meditate by the ocean, swim in the ocean, eat fish from the ocean. That's it. But we don't know that how much we're harming it and what needs to happen to save it. So thank you for that. And speaking about how we need to save the planet, I want to have a video that I took. Actually, he couldn't be with us today because he lives in Singapore and it's already 5 hours ahead. But he was kind enough to have a discussion with me on Saturday morning. And this man, I'm a bit biased because I just love this man, because nothing is bigger than his brain than his humility. And I'm talking obviously about Professor Dr. Rachid Yazami, who, as Ahmad said, without his work, none of us would have a mobile phone in his hand today. And we're very proud of the work he's done, and he's still doing. And I had the privilege to take some time and for him to tell us more about the work he's doing to bring more sustainability to the world, and all the advances that he's doing to cultivate more clean energy and to advance electric mobility. So we'll be happy to play his video for all of us to listen to.
Science, of course, it has been always the best activity that human brain or mind can do, because it's always about understanding the world around us and how we can use a knowledge that we build every day from experiments, from data, from things that we collect to improve our lives. Okay, so it has been continuous since the beginning of the history of humanity. But now the thing is that our society in general is facing many challenges. Okay, and among these challenges, as you know, is the climate change. This is very important. You see many, catastrophes, like last week or 2 weeks ago, what happens in the United States and all over the world. There are climate, events that are terrible, making more and more what we call greenhouse gases emissions, like a CO2, like other methane and so on, that affect actually the atmosphere and make the greenhouse more and more. So as a result, of course, the average temperature is increasing, and even if it increases by half a degree, there is a huge change. 21st century has been based on hydrocarbons. Okay, and of course, Emirates is one of the giant producers of oil and gas and so on. So hydrocarbon has been there. It brings a lot of wealth to societies and so on, but we have to think beyond, the hydrocarbons. And we have infinite and very cheap, and if not free, energy coming from our, sun. Okay, so we have sun energy, solar energy, and also we have wind, and we have other sources on Earth that are available to make energy. It's a huge amount of energy. Okay, so if we can produce that energy and store it, that solves a lot of problems for regarding not only transportation, mobility, but also for the climate change, as we can store energy and use it only when we need, etc. So batteries are in the center of the whole system. And I expect that for the 21st century, from the next 10 years, 20 years, there will be more and more solar farms, wind farms all over, associated with energy storage, like in batteries. Okay, this is what we call, stationary energy storage in lithium batteries. But also, as you mentioned, we still are working on, the mobile electronics, like handheld, devices like cell phones, tablets, and whatever you can imagine. In the future, we expect that, electric mobility, like everybody knows about Tesla, but there's not only Tesla. Tesla is just the first company who made electric vehicles very popular. But now every major car manufacturer worldwide is doing this transition from internal combustion cars to electric vehicles. So we have to prepare this, and I think batteries will be also playing a major role for the next decade, to bring this I would say clean cities, clean transportation. We don't emit any more gases, and we produce electricity from sustainable energies, sustainable sources of energy. Okay, so this is where we are now, and I am in my work here in Singapore after what you mentioned, that the invention of lithium-ion batteries, which I did back to 1979. So instead of having like a cell phone every 2 years, how can we use a cell phone for another 2 years or 5 years? How about electric cars? Electric cars now are for 5 to 6 years. Can we extend it to over 10 years? Okay, this kind of things. Okay, and the last but not the least is for electric mobility, is how can we charge batteries in less than 10 minutes? Okay, very important, because now if you take your car to a gas station, you can fill your tank in 10 minutes and you can drive for over 600 kilometers. So how about electric vehicles? Can we charge our batteries in 10 minutes and drive for 600 kilometers? These are the questions that are, we are facing, we are addressing now. We have some success, thanks God. We have developed a new technology that enables us to charge batteries in 10 minutes, even in 6. Will help address the issues that I mentioned in the beginning, which is the climate change and the climate warming. 2014, which is considered, this is given by the National Academy of Engineering in the United States, and this is the highest distinction that an engineer can receive worldwide, okay? And one comment was, Arab science is back. The Arabs were leading the world in the Middle Ages with a lot of science in medicine, in mathematics, in astrology, in every area of science, Arabs were leading, okay? So, but after the Middle Ages, somehow we lost this, momentum. And my impression now is that for sure, for the next decades, I can tell you there will be more and more people like myself. I'm very humble to tell you this, but who will contribute in different areas of science, not only what I mentioned, like in energy, maybe other areas, in physics, in chemistry, in biology, in medicine, and all these areas of interest, in agriculture, in water treatment, all these problems, giant problems that face humanity. So anyway, the thing is that my message is for young people is to say, yes, you can. You have a brain, and you can, count on yourself and believe in yourself, and just be curious and open-minded to what's going in the world, and don't hesitate to ask. Don't hesitate to, look at what's going on and read a lot of, books and so on about, the main problems humanity is facing, how the problems are addressed now, and how you can contribute, to address these problems. It's all possible, and it comes only from, number one, good knowledge, good education. So this is very important that actually the Arab world and Islamic world has to really build a very, very solid, science-oriented education. Number two is to build also values, okay? Very important, like, respect of others, be honest, hard worker, and also, spreading positive messages to the world, okay? So all of this, I think, might contribute to shape the brain or the spirits of the next generation of, Arabs and Muslims around the world. And then this, what we lost from the Middle Ages to now, we can recover it because we are able to do it. It's not a problem. So Tawazun is like finding a balance, as you said, okay? So it's very important because it's always what we are doing results from maybe contradictory things. You have to go right or you have to go left and so on. So you have to find your path, which is somehow in the middle as you feel it, okay? So Tawazun for me is actually not only in the activity, but also in the spirit. Okay, what you have to find this kind of balance between modernity and culture, between tradition and what we see in the world. So we have now the media, so many ways to communicate because of all the internet and so on. It has changed the world. Okay. It brings a lot of opportunities for people to learn, but also it can give you wrong information. And the most important is have to have this ability to get your own judgment about what is right, what is wrong, and so on, and kind of find a kind of balance between all these tendencies. So for me, it's of course Tawazun is very, very important. It's very central, okay, for everything we are doing. It's that's what I'm trying to do in my life. I mean, trying to at the same time balance between my I would say professional activity and my family, relationship with my family. Very important. between, you know, what I'm doing in Singapore and my home country, which is Morocco. Okay, so that's this kind of balance I want to find. Okay, it's not always easy. You cannot satisfy everybody. When you look at yourself in a mirror, you are proud of yourself.
I think you would agree why I'm really so fond of this person that, you know, he has the brain of a scientist, but really a heart of gold. Very, very wise words. I'm sure you're not listening, you're not watching. It's very late in Singapore, but probably you'll see the recording. And thank you, Dr. Rachid. It's always a pleasure to share stages with you. And I'm going to go back to wrap up our panel and see if you have any final words to say about this discussion. What are the takeaways for us, all of us, and how are we going to make sure that we have everybody at the table from diverse backgrounds to work collectively and not in silos to bring balance to the world? Just quickly, a closing remark from each of you. Please.
It's fine. Nobody wants to close. I think you have such a big, broad spectrum, Hanan, in Tawazun, and it's not an easy thing to wrap up so easily. For me, I believe I have a view on where we have arrived as humans in terms of this capitalism journey. I think, unfortunately, this mass consumption is of everything. Mass consumption of food, mass consumption of technology, mass consumption of information, mass consumption of media is kind of throwing us off balance. So, many decades ago, people were so eager to produce and consume, and it was all about finding things on shelves instead of harvesting, planting, harvesting, and waiting. Everything became instant. I'm afraid we are at a phase of that journey where it's backfiring on us because we are exhausting the earth, we are exhausting the brains, we're exhausting the souls. People are all chasing capitalistic goals, trying to achieve the next big thing. But with that, they are becoming more depressed. There is, I think, more depression and suicide. And since when have we heard so much about mental health? This is now the big thing. I mean, next thing you hear in the next panel is going to be mental health in the corporate world. Yalla, let's talk about it. It's because we're chasing so much and we are not taking care of ourselves. And then chasing production is also, unfortunately, damaging the sea, damaging the forests. So I think the whole human race has to reflect. And there was a little bit of sahwa, I would say, during COVID, where people started saying, oh, it slowed down, Mother Earth is breathing. I hope that the greed will stop, but I don't think it will, because human beings have very short memories. The moment you tell them, take off the masks, what's COVID? I have no clue what it was. So I would say, please, please reflect, and there is some amazing quality published articles and books. Anything that makes you uncomfortable, read it, I would say. Anything that throws you off balance, reflect on it. That's my
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and I couldn't agree more with Asma, but my message is one of partnerships. What we've heard today is different perspectives from, significant impacts on the planet, significant impacts on the people, unemployment, climate change, workplaces that require balance with women at the forefront or more, balanced leadership models, etc. So when we look at all of these problems and their magnitude, we're looking at numbers in the millions, in the billions sometimes. Like, I don't want to sit here and share all the stats I know about sustainable development, but the numbers are big. They require concerted action. They require partnerships. That's why for us, as people of impact, we are fully, in support of Tawazun. There is no impact without balance, and no balance without impact. And it starts with us. It starts with each individual assuming responsibility for a better, more equitable, and more balanced world. So I guess my message is reflect after today how you can contribute to a more balanced and equitable world, each in our own individual capacity. And I know I'm talking too long right now, but one thing, I mean, I've been working on social impact for the last 20 years across the UN, the private sector, and as a social entrepreneur. And what I learned is that where I had the most impact was where I was aligned with my core and purpose. So starting with discovering this purpose and what you personally can offer the world, and then unleashing that, regardless of whether it's your voice, your writing, your role as an entrepreneur or as a corporate professional, wherever it is, you can deliver impact and you can deliver balance to people you work with, you serve, or you interact with. So this is where I want to leave it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, this is the great benefit of going last, is that everyone's already said everything. So basically, my reflection on today is very simple. We've had some eminent thinkers, we've had some eminent doers, and I think the most important balance is really encouraging our children. I'm one of the few British people that has 5 children, and now 2 grandchildren as well. I have no idea how that happened. But basically, if I look at my eldest children, 31, and I look at my youngest, 7, and I look at how much time they spend on the screen, at the 31-year-old and the 7-year-old, and then I compare that to, well, we didn't even have screens when I was young, there was no internet. But, if I look at that, I start to question the amount of time that kids are spending inside their own heads. When I was a kid, my mother used to throw me out on the street. If I was lucky, I had a bicycle that tires could be pumped up. Yep. And I would disappear off for like 20 kilometers, riding off to some shop. It was in another town, to buy my little Airfix kits or whatever they were. But kids don't do that these days. And I think one of our primary roles as parents, as teachers, as leaders of our younger generation is to encourage them to get back outside, encourage them to go and do something, even if it's that big. Yep. As I said before, how do you change an ocean? Well, one drop at a time. It's exactly the same thing with our children as well. And I think that's where we need to spend a lot of time. So,
thank you very much. We wouldn't have closed with a better remark. Every change matters, and it has to start from an early age. Thank you, Nuha. Thank you, Asma. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Dr. Hamid Boushikhi, Dr. Hamid Al-Boushikhi, Dr. Rachid Yazami. Thank you for being present. And thanks for technology that allowed us to have your insights. And would like to thank the panel before we move to our last and very interesting speaker, which is a surprise for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Please. Sitting or standing? Okay, fine. Thank you.
Knowledgeable panel that has shared such rich insights with us today. And as we speak about balance and inclusivity, the youth have a significant role in this conversation. I would like to introduce Hamdan Mohammed Zabi as the voice of youth today.
Thank you, Ms. Damiana. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, everyone. My name is Hamdan Zabi, and today I want to talk about what a balanced world means to me and how we can shape it for the future. How many people have been considered unequal because of their race, wealth, or gender? This is inequality, and as humans, we should all be considered equal. The only thing telling us apart is our mindsets. That isn't the only type of balance needed in the world. Each individual needs to have a balanced life with an equal amount of everything. A world where everyone feels included and has the same chance to live a happy life. We need to keep a balanced environment where we care about the planet, with less industrial pollution, which is causing global warming and several animal and human deaths. From my perspective, a balanced world and a perfect future would be a place with no war, no racism, no global warming, everyone happy and calm, healthy environments, and most importantly, everyone considered equal. Without this balance, the world will be unstable. I want to grow up in a world with balanced people, workplaces, societies, and on a balanced planet. All this starts with each one of us. As someone wise once said, if you can't change the world, change yourself first, and then others will follow. We need to act now. This is our time to create this balanced world and shape the future for our descendants. Every little change counts. Join us and be توازن. توازن من أجل عالم متوازن. حياكم في بلادكم أرض الإمارات. Thank you very much for your attention. شكرا جزيلا على اهتمامكم.
Thank you, Hamdan. Well said. The change starts with us. We all have a role to play in creating a balanced world and a better future for all equally. Today, being International Human Solidarity Day, emphasizing what we are capable of doing together. Here we are, together, as part of this launch of Tawazun. Our esteemed guests emphasize the significance of preserving and protecting human dignity, along with the importance of gender balance, along with our diverse panel sharing how they tackled challenges and effected positive change towards balanced people, workplaces, societies, and planet. Starting with Dr. Hamid and his inspiring presentation on Morocco's new model of development, building the country's future in a sustainable and balanced way. Dr. Rachid, sharing his work and the role of science in creating a more sustainable future, as well as the significance of values needed now more than ever. Ms. Asma shared practice of how the private sector can create a more balanced workplace and significance of self-belief, along with the dangers of overconsumption and reflection on the significance of mental health. Daryl shared the significance of protecting oceans, driving balance, and encouraging children to spend more time outside of their heads. Professor Muhammad shared how education is a key enabler to equipping the youth and the essential skills to balance the world. And Ms. Noha sharing how we can all work together to co-create a better world and the need for partnerships to solve significant problems. As she mentioned, no impact without balance and no balance without impact. Reflecting after today on how you can contribute to a better world individually. All of us today are here inspired by your words, which provide guidance on how to integrate balance in different aspects of life. As Hanan shared earlier, we are here to plant seeds of change and co-create a balanced future together for all. Change starts with each one of us. You should all have received the Wheel of Life. This is, you all have the wheel? Okay, great. It's a great tool that can help evaluate balance in your life. Please take a moment to fill it out and rate yourself on the Wheel of Life to identify where you need to focus most of your attention. Join Tawazun by registering on tawazun.com to continue this journey and nurture the seeds of change that we planted today. Thank you again to the Morocco Pavilion for hosting us today, to Dr. Dina and Your Excellency, and esteemed panelists, and all of you joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the session and ready to be Tawazun today. Enjoy refreshments at the back of the room, and first we'll invite our guests, and thank you, Ahmed.
A very special thank you for all of you in the room. I believe we need to start something by first connecting to each other. So we encourage you to meet one another. Really important, not only getting inspired by our beautiful minds of today, but also contributing by taking the first step. Meet each other, talk to each other, and start doing something with one another. It's really important because we will never be able to do it alone. One hand doesn't clap. So thank you so much for being here. And it starts with the heart first. This does, this thinks, and let's do it all together. Tawazun. Thank you so much.
Yes, if you'll join us for a picture.
في الحقوق والواجبات. وهناك كذلك انطلاقا من هذه المقتضيات وهذه نقول استثنائية المملكة، أصبح للنساء منذ يوليوز 2018 الحق في ولوج إلى مهنة العدول. هذا الدستور العدول نسكي. أصبح للنساء منذ يوليوز 2018 الحق في الولوج إلى